Hi guys, Newsnight have done it once again. It's either the case that they invite on somebody who's a deeply biased political hack or somebody who doesn't know their backside from their elbow. And in this case, they covered both sides by inviting on Poppy Coburn. Now, she's a Tory, she writes for Conservative Home, and she also wrote this last year to give you an idea of what she's all about. Poppy Coburn wrote, "It's time to become the 51st state of the US. We need to get Brexit done properly. Let's finally face up to reality and put our MAGA hats on." That was last December. Here she was on Newsnight this week.
A classic example of every aspect of the state failing at once that just makes this story look like complete shambles, right? I mean, as you've pointed out, it's not just the prison system that's failed, and we know that Wandsworth has had issues before, obviously with Daniel Khalif, the convicted terrorist who managed to escape. Chelmsford Prison also has its own issues, so there are these problematic prisons in play. Also an issue of border force. So one of those prisoners was overstaying on a visa. He's been here for 5 years. He was given a deportation order and yet remained in the country. So that's a part of the problem. And then also there's been the response from government, which I do not think has been satisfactory. Of course, there's a lot of public interest at the moment in law and order issues. If you're going to come forward and say, we're going to do these inquiries, we're going to do these reports, people want results immediately. Now, I agree that the Labour Party has inherited a terrible situation in prisons, but when there's been a 128% increase in people being mistakenly released from prison, that's 1 in 800 prisoners being mistakenly released, you've got to take this more seriously.
Must take it more seriously. You know, where was Poppy when the Conservatives were in charge? She's saying now, yeah, well, yes, they inherited a bit of a disaster, but remember, you have to take responsibility for it now. So the problem here either lies with the civil service, who are not doing their job, or it lies with the government. Now, what we're hearing from Conservatives is, well, it's not really down to the civil service, the problem is the Labour government. But when they were in charge, we heard the opposite. It was like, yeah, we're trying to push through measures, but the problem is the civil service. The problem is the blob. Government ministers want to do more and do it faster, but we can't because of these damn civil servants. They're either blocking us in the courts, or they're blocking us with bureaucracy, or they're blocking us with procedures. And we would like to do more, but it's not our fault. Our hands are tied. Even though we are the people who are ultimately in charge, we have no real power. Now, we could change things, but we decide not to. Why? Well, because it's easy just to blame somebody else. Now, are there problems within the civil service? Of course there are. But the government have to take responsibility for that. Labour can blame the Tories, and rightly so. But if they want to change things, they need to start making those changes immediately. They need to issue the reforms necessary. Now, in some cases, it requires more funding. In some cases, it requires more staff. That needs to be done. And it's going to be difficult to recruit people due to the terrible working conditions. And we've seen over the last number of years, especially when the Conservatives were in power, a lot of people leaving the prison service because of the working conditions. So you're going to have to improve those. You're going to have to pay people higher wages. You're going to have to entice them either to return or in the first place. And that's a lot of hard work. But that's the responsibility of the government, not the civil service itself. Remember, the government have to take ultimate responsibility here. But what you're going to hear from the Tories and their friends in the media, and Brexiteers like this one, is that, well, it's all down to the Labour government. Once again, you can't say this if a number of years ago you were blaming someone else. You have to be a bit honest for a change, but maybe asking somebody who works for the Telegraph to be honest is a bit of a stretch. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think, and I'll see you in the next video.